Welcome to the Fourth Branch program. Glad you can make it. I am MD. This program is dedicated exclusively for those with common sense, a spirit of patriotism, and a determination for a more perfect union. Stay tuned as we begin the discussion of a very important, interesting, and enlightening topic. Hope to hear from you soon. Happy listening. Ignorance is the biggest threat to any democracy. It is, however, the ignorance of the ignorance which represent the greatest danger to a society. It is what turns an ignorant into a lunatic. Thus lies the danger, the peril even of a man, a community, a state, a country, and yes, even a society. John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, said that the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of us all. Indeed, it does. We've seen it, have we not? We've witnessed it. We are all living it today, are we not? All men are born ignorant. Many have chosen to stay and live in ignorance. Only a few recognize ignorance is the stem of all evil and have made the decision to be ignorant no more. Marcus Cicero, a Roman philosopher in 63 BC, said that any man can make mistakes, but only an idiot persists in his error. Today, we will continue to talk about the 2018 election, the midterm election, which is today. We will encourage you once again to go to vote if you have not done so. If you did not participate in the early voting, or if you still have to vote and you have not done so yet today, I will provide you a few more reasons to get off the chair or to get off your high horse and go to vote. It is that important. First, an announcement. Join me here on the Fourth Branch at 10:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. every Saturday. There are a couple of civic duty reasons that you ought to vote. But today I will give you a little bit more than that. But the first one that I will point out to you is the following, because I have heard it in the past. The excuses that individuals use not to go to vote. First, let me make very clear that when you do not vote, it is you not protesting. So put differently, not voting is not a protest. It is a surrender. Now, I will not spend too much time explaining it, but I'll repeat it again. Not voting is not a protest. It is a surrender. Just to stay at home and say, I'm not going to vote because I don't like either candidate. I don't like Democrat. I don't like Republican. And usually that's the basis of the excuses that most people who do not go to the poll, that's the excuses that they give. I don't see which party I'm going to vote for. They're all the same. Both do exactly the same thing. This is a lame excuse. That's number one. Not voting is not a protest. The fact that you think or you said in your mind, I'm not going to vote because I don't like Democrat, I don't like Republican, it sounds almost like you're saying you're protesting. This is a form of protest. It's not. Not voting is not a protest. It is a surrender. Here's why. Mankind like having the ability to impact society, to do something, whatever it is, however small it is. And when society starts being a structured environment, like you start having countries, state, etc., communities, then the structure in place is, in general, mankind would want to be the only, whoever is in charge would want to be the only one who has a voice. We've seen it in the past in structure, government structure, if we can call those structure that, kings, queens, where the only voice that matters is the voice of the king or the queen. And even as of today, we have authoritarian regime which do not give a voice to the people. For instance, North Korea. Even Iran, that we, the United States of America, sometimes put in the list of regime, authoritarian regime, but there is some form of democracy in that country. North Korea, on the other hand, is a completely authoritarian regime. The people have no voice, no choice in the matters. And it is a guarantee that whenever people have the ability, the choice to be able to make their voices heard, they do not stay silent. People die to get a say on the matter, give their life, blood shed. We, the United States of America, we even spend the lives of our soldiers to go to free other countries so that they can have a voice. Ironic, isn't it? We expanding, we put the lives of our own soldiers in danger to give to other people the option to get their voices heard. In other words, that's how much we say We value the idea of people having a voice in the government. Now, I will, not today, but I will also at some point address the issue here in the United States where Republicans, exclusively Republicans, have tried for decades to prevent people in the country from voting. It's a different story. We'll get to that, which it is also important, but we want to get to the point of you who have still not made the choice to go out there and vote, to give you more reason to do so. No matter how you feel about one party or the other, not voting is not a form of protest. It is surrender. You are simply surrendering the option, the right, the privilege to vote. Many people have died for that. Now, when you sit at home and you don't go to vote, you're not making any statement to anybody. You're just surrendering the rights that you have. In Australia, for instance, it is mandatory for people to vote. You cannot just sit home and say, I'm not going to vote. It is one thing that I wish that we have here. Yes, they have a democratic system like we have here. But the government find it important enough, critical enough to say that you will be fined if you do not go to vote. It doesn't matter who you vote for. They're not asking you to vote for party A or for party B. Well, I'm sure that they do care, but the bottom line is the main issue is you must vote. The government in Australia encourages people to vote. Here in the United States, as I mentioned earlier, Republicans, exclusively Republican, Democrats do not get involved in that game. Republicans, for decades, every election, they have tried everything possible to prevent groups of people from voting, while we're spending the lives of our soldiers to go overseas to fight for others to have the right to vote. Number one, not voting is not a form of protest. It is surrender. So you better go and vote, because otherwise you're just surrendering your rights. And you don't have any say over what's going on in the country, because if you do not vote, you did not express your opinion. So when things go bad, you cannot come and say anything about that, because you surrender your rights by not voting. Many people have died for you to have the rights to vote. So why should you not? But I'm going to give you even more reason for, especially today. When Donald Trump took over the presidency of the United States, there were more people in the country who did not expect Donald Trump to become president, including Donald Trump himself, by the way. This is not an assumption. This is not a speculation. This is not a joke. People in Donald Trump camp did not expect that to happen. Many of those people who ran the campaign had already sent their resume around for another gig, for another job, because they did not expect a Donald Trump presidency. And Donald Trump camp did not even prepare a victory speech. There was no expectation. The country as a whole did not expect that to happen. When Donald Trump became the president of the United States, he inherited a country that was doing well financially, economically. Unemployment went down from 10 plus percent when Obama took office in 2009 to leaving the office at 4.7, 4.5. Wall Street was brimming in cash. Companies were reporting record revenues, record profit. Now, when you elect an individual, whether it's the president of the United States, congressmen, senators, governors, mayors, you elect those people to improve your lives, not to make it harder. Right? Month one of the Trump administration, both the Trump administration and the Republican-led Congress and the Senate passed a $1.5 trillion tax cut for large corporation and wealthy individual. Yes, they did say it's a tax cut, but they mislead you by saying it's a tax cut for the people. It wasn't a tax cut for the people. $1.2 trillion out of 1.5 went to large corporation and wealthy individual. That's not an administration that's working for you. That's not a Congress that's working for you. That's not a Senate that's working for you. So if you sit at home today and you don't go to vote, all you're doing is helping to perpetuate this situation. $1.5 trillion were borrowed. We, the country, do not have that money. The Congress and Republican senators, they went and borrowed the money. But what they did with the money was even worse. They give it to companies, large corporations, and wealthy individuals that were already doing great. And by great, we mean they were doing excellent. When Obama left the Oval Office, companies were reporting record profit, record revenues. Wall Street was brimming with cash. And yet, Republican Congress and the Senate passed a tax cut, 1.5 trillion. 1.2 out of that went to those same companies that were doing excellent, that were doing great. If you sit at home, you don't go to vote, you helping to perpetuate this very problem. But here's what's worse. Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, everybody was out there telling you that the tax cut was for you. But they know that they were lying to you because they know 1.2 trillion of that money will go to large corporation and wealthy individual. How can I possibly know that? Hold on a second. How can I possibly know that they know the $1.2 trillion were going to go to large corporation? Because they crafted that legislation. So while they were busy doing the crafting of the legislation for the money that they borrowed. They know that they're giving $1.2 trillion to the large corporation and wealthy individual. They were out there lying to you, the constituent, and tell you it's a huge tax cut for the people. So that's another reason that if you sit at home and you don't go to vote to get rid of those congressmen, those senators, you are helping to perpetuate the problem. One, they borrowed money we don't have as a country. They borrowed the money. Guess where that money is going to go to? To the national debt. Remember how much Republicans want to bring debt down because they're so fed up about adding more debt to our children, our grandchildren. Remember that? They so angry because, well, Democrats, are giving a heavy debt for our children and our grandchildren to carry. Remember that? Do you know the first thing that they did was to add to the national debt? The very first legislations that were passed, the very first one that was passed was the tax cut that was provided to the wealthy and the large corporation. So we know that your Republican legislators have been lying to you. So if you sit at home and you do not go to vote to get rid of them, you are an accomplice to the current situation the country is in. So not voting is not a form of protest. If you want to protest, vote to get rid of those who are doing those things to you. You cannot protest at home. Sitting at home does not do anything for you. So you go to the poll to vote so that you can remedy the situation. One, they borrow money we did not have. Two, they lie. Well, actually, two, they took 90% of that money. Think of it this way. Someone borrowed $100,000 and $90,000 out of those $100,000 would go to a large corporation and wealthy individual. So they took $10,000 and they distribute among all the rest of the people. So which means you're getting peanuts. That's why you may see on your paycheck, you get a $40 extra or a $60 extra. So that's what that is. The 10%, that's what you're getting. Two, they lie to you. Well, two, they distribute the money to the large corporation. Three, they lie to you about it because they say it's a huge tax cut for you. They lie to you because most of the money, 90% of the money goes to large corporation and wealthy individual. Four, what they didn't tell you is you are responsible for that money. You and you alone. You, the taxpayer. And by you and you alone, not a figure speech. I mean you and you alone. You, the taxpayer. You, your children, your grandchildren, and beyond are responsible for that money that the Republicans borrowed and gave to large corporation. Why you and you alone is because the legislation was crafted in such a way that those corporations will not have to pay a single penny back. First, they took 1.5 trillion. They took 90% of that, 1.3 trillion, 1.275 to be exact. They took 1.275 to be exact. That's the amount of money they took and give to large corporation and wealthy individual. They lie to us, we the people. They lie to us because they say it's going to be a tax cut for the people. But the most nefarious thing that they did is they crafted the legislation and tell those large corporations that get most of the money, hey, don't worry, we have the people to pay for that money back. No joke, no kidding. The $1.5 trillion that were borrowed, that were added to the national debt, we the people are fully responsible for it. Large corporation, wealthy individual that got most of the money, they have to pay zero back. So the $40 that you see on your paycheck, or the $60, which you think, oh, it's better than nothing. Of course it's better than nothing. But keep in mind that you, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren and beyond are responsible for the whole $1.5 trillion. So when you sit at home and think you're protesting, you're not protesting. Your best form of protest is to get off the chair, put the game down, and go to vote to get rid of those individuals, because they're the one who did that. Yes, exclusively. There was no Democrats involved. Republican single-handedly did what I just explained to you. Democrats were fully against it. In fact, 60% of the people in the country, not just Democrats, 60% of the people in the country were against it. Republican single-handedly add $1.5 trillion to the national debt. Yes, the same Republican that always complaining about the national debt. They added $1.5 trillion that were not necessary, because they give it to corporations that were already brimming with cash. It makes no logical sense, but for reason that you may want to know why Republicans did that. It's because by giving the money, that huge sum of money to large corporations, when they run for public office, in return they're expecting those corporations to finance their campaign. They don't care that we the people have to pay the price. So if you want to protest, you need, before this day is over, today is the voting day, to go to the poll, to go to the voting booth in your respective state and vote those Republicans. They single-handedly, no Democrats involved, they single-handedly crafted that legislation that added another $1.5 trillion to the national debt. Not voting is not a form of protest. It is surrender. You're surrendering your rights to vote. People die for it, shed blood for it. Even our soldiers, we expand them to go to countries to free other people so that they have the right to vote. So get off the couch, get off the chair, and Lyft, especially today, Lyft is giving a huge discount. Lyft is the challenger to Uber. You may be more familiar with Uber. That's the company that's pick you up at home. You go online and you pay for your Lyft to go from point A to point Z. In that case, from your house to the pole. Lyft today is giving a huge discount. If they picking you up from your home or wherever to take you to the poll to vote, they making it super easy for you to vote. So there is no excuse. Not voting is not a form of protest. It is surrender. So you need to go vote. The predicament the country is in, we put the country in that predicament because in 2016, everybody in the country would not have wanted Donald Trump to become president. He did become president, and he plunged the country in a predicament that we all regret today. Now, here's how one senator put the whole thing. One senator said, that Donald Trump is not even a Republican. He's not even a Republican. So he ran as a Republican. You voted for him. Now, this is what the country has become because of that. Now, remember how much we talk about the big divide in the country? And we're always talking it's Democrat versus Republican. Democrat do not agree with Republican. Republican do not agree with Democrats. Remember how much we talked about that? Well, it so happened the big divide is not even between the people. It so happened that the big divide is in Washington. Because what we saw in Washington when Donald Trump became president of the United States, it wasn't on the street, it wasn't the people that were so much divided. Because there are a lot of things that the people agreed on. For instance, as I mentioned earlier, 60%, that's a majority, 60% of the people were against the idea of passing that, of borrowing money to pass this huge tax cut for large corporations. 60%. And yet, Republicans decided, I don't care what 60% of the nation wants. We just go ahead and do it anyway. And it wasn't the first time that they did that. Remember the Healthcare Act, aka Obamacare? The majority of the people in the country think it's a good thing. The majority. And you know what else? Currently, there are 20 plus million people who are covered under Obamacare. Republicans tried 62 times under Obama and twice under Trump to get rid of it. Not because they think it's bad. And I know that because this election, there are a number of Republicans who are actually running and telling you they're going to protect pre-existing conditions, which happen to be part of Obamacare. So it's not because they think it's bad, it's because Republicans have, for the longest, done things which harm the constituent, which hurt the constituent, including you. So do not sit at home and consider that a protest. It's not a protest. If you want to protest, call Lyft, get in your car, go to the poll, go to vote. Because a vote, your vote, can make all the difference in the world. Don't say everybody is voting, so it doesn't matter. It does matter, because I'm going to give you an example. I don't recall the name of the county, but that's in Virginia. Either this year or last year, that was a special election where a candidate won by a single vote. I kid you not, a single vote. So don't think your vote do not count. Your vote matters. Your vote is important. But more importantly, not voting is not a form of protest. So you need to go to the poll to vote, because the predicament we in, the predicament the country is in today, cannot change without your vote. So if you sit at home and you're mulling the idea, but you feel, there are so many people voting, I'm not going to vote. Remember, a single vote makes all the difference in the world. And that single vote could be yours. That's how important it is. That's how important you are. A single vote can make all the difference in the world. So don't sit at home and think it doesn't matter. So many people are voting. What is one vote? What if everybody said the same thing? What do you think would happen? Do you know that authoritarians, dictators, they would love the idea, well, actually, they would love the idea of having a system where they say everybody can vote, but nobody votes. They would like to have that privilege. Well, instead, of course, they prevent that from happening. But I'm saying that their mindset, it would have looked better for them that they have a system. They tell everybody that, you see, it's a democratic system. Everybody can vote, but nobody votes. So when you hear people making that kind of argument, it is a lame argument. Not voting is not a form of protest. It is a form of surrender. So go vote. And that's how you can change the country. Because talking about it, talking about the situation, talking how bad things are, doesn't change anything. You can talk all you want. But when you are offered the opportunity to go to the poll, to vote, then you take that opportunity, then you are making a huge difference. You know that county in Virginia whose winner was decided by a single vote? Do you know that that single vote is what's going to determine which way that county moves in terms of progress, in terms of whatever the county, the individual is responsible for? A single vote. So a single vote can make all the difference in the world. And that single vote is yours. And I encourage you today to go to the poll, call Lyft. In fact, if you do not have a car, that's the best option for you, because if you call a cab, you're going to pay full price. But Lyft today, Lyft is the challenger to Uber. Not Uber, because Uber didn't extend that kind of option. Lyft offered the option across the nation. If you call Lyft, you get a huge discount to take you from point A to the poll, from your house or wherever you happen to be, to vote. So take advantage of that. Go to the poll, vote, because the future of the country, the future of your kids, of your grandkids, of your great-grandkids is in the balance. You heard a lot of noise, a lot of sound bites, a lot of conversations. Some of them make you fear, some of them make you feel good. A lot of sound bites. But those information that I just pointed out to you, we can either continue to go on that path, in which case you will have no reason to complain further because you decided not to do anything. Or you can go to the poll and vote and change the course, the direction of the country. You and you alone can do that. In 1996, a small network by the name of Fox News was launched with just 17 million viewers. Today, with over 100 million people watching regularly, Fox has become the greatest threat to our democracy, constantly bombarding the airwaves with false information, distortion of facts, and outright lies, presenting to its audience as news. Fox has created an army of blissful ignorance. According to a recent survey, 82% of Fox viewers are ignorant of facts and the truth. To keep millions of people in ignorance not only prevents democracy from flourishing, but it also clears the path to authoritarianism, to dictatorship. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Let me finish by saying that democracy cannot survive in an environment where truth and facts do not matter. At Fox, truth and facts do not matter. Indeed, democracy in America is in jeopardy. It is a crisis the country can no longer ignore. It is time sound-minded individuals, decent and morally bound Americans take over the operation and the functioning of our government for far too long. We have entrusted the legislators in Washington and in our respective states to attend to the interest of the country, but they have violated our trust. They have instead attended to their own self-interest, and in the process they have destroyed the very institution which have guaranteed a system of justice and protected our democracy. In all fairness, we the people do share some of the responsibility for this predicament. You see, we are responsible to have made the same mistake over and over and over. We have been electing the same individuals who have abandoned their task, their duty. We have been electing them over and over again to represent us. The reason is probably because we, the people, have been too disengaged. We have been disengaged in political discussion. We have been too disengaged in political debates. But we are not solely responsible. We, the people, have been deceived, as I just explained, with the $1.5 trillion tax cut. Now with the Republican telling you that they will preserve pre-existing conditions. We have been deceived by the Republican legislators who have mastered the art of deception, the art of pinning one group against the other, one party against the other. We have been deceived. That's the reason election after election, we, the constituent, we have been sending the same individuals back to Washington. Marcus Cicero, a Roman philosopher in 63 BC, said that any man can make mistakes, but only an idiot persists in his error. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We have been fooled by the Republican legislators over and over and over again. Now, granted, both political parties are to blame for the state of the republic. But one must admit that the Republican Party has long lost its way. The GOP leaders have long abandoned the principles, the virtues the parties used to stand for. By most analysis, GOP congressmen, senators, governors, mayors, they all think in terms, not in terms of the country, not in terms of future generations. Our congressmen, our senators, our governors, our mayors, they all seek instant gratification. They want to win the election. So they'll tell you anything that they think you want to hear. They'll say anything. They'll smear the other side without proposing a solution. They'll say anything at all. Instant gratification. And they know it is most of the time to the detriment of the country. You know what? It is time. It is time, well overdue now, that Republican constituent get rid of all those old legislators who have long lost touch with reality, with changing time, and with a changing culture. We've seen Chuck Grassley, Orrin Hatch, Lindsey Graham, all of those people, how they react, how they think. It is past their time. They don't understand the new generation. They're not thinking in terms of generation. They're thinking in terms of how long can I keep this job? So they lie to you. Look at Mitch McConnell. They have lied to us over and over and over. And we know they are still lying to us about keeping pre-existing conditions, because Mitch McConnell himself said in an interview that if they keep the House, they're going to try to get rid of Obamacare once again. So we know that Republicans have been lying to us, have been deceiving us. They have become masters of deception. So it is time we, the constituent, decide to get rid of those who are not doing the job for which they were elected. We are not idiots. It's time we understand that we made a mistake in the past. We elected them, but they're not doing the job. So it is time. Today is the opportunity to get rid of all those individuals who have deceived us, who have lied to us. Join me here on the Fourth Branch at 10:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. every Saturday. Thank you for spending the time with me, and I'm hoping and I'm trusting that if you did not vote yet, if you have not voted yet, if you were thinking about it, or if you didn't feel like it, because especially if you live in the Northeast where it's raining, you have many reasons to make your voice heard. You have many reasons. I gave you a few. Not voting is not a form of protest. It is surrender. You don't want to surrender your rights, your rights to vote. You don't want to surrender this privilege that we enjoy here in the United States, that a lot of people would like to have but don't. But I also give you example of what will continue to happen if you do not vote to change the course of affairs in the country. Tomorrow, while most places will be busy making analysis of the outcome of the election, we will be taking a look at all the different strategies, tricks, maneuvers that Republicans have used to prevent people from voting, to discourage people from voting, or to try to suppress voting. Yes, this is a problem here in the United States. While we are going out there trying to tell people that they should vote right here in our backyard. And I say Republican, it is exclusively Republicans that have been doing that for decades. Every time that there is an election, they always try to prevent groups of people from voting. It is actually a problem that the nation should address, because while most other countries are trying to get more and more people involved in voting, Republicans are trying harder and harder to prevent people from voting. That is a problem in the United States. So we will address that. And I hope you can join me tomorrow when we will be talking about this aspect of our democracy that is being eroded by the Republican Party. Have a good day, and don't forget to vote. It is today. There is no voting tomorrow. It is today, the day to vote. So don't forget to vote. The Fourth Branch Podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website, located at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens to be. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York. Good day.